Hey guys, Wade Willis here for my playthrough of Umineko. This is Chapter 2. I'm in Part 13. Last episode, Canon's body was missing, so people were kind of putting the blame on Canon for Jessica's body being, Jessica being murdered, I should say. And Battler was able to use some of his, sweet thinking ability to show that and deductive reasoning to figure out that actually Canon was innocent. So that was a huge blow, although this kind of did back him into a corner with Beatrice and him admitting that she exists and magic exists, because obviously Canon's key is not what actually locked the door. So yeah, pretty wild episode. And yeah, guys, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to my channel. And yeah, let's go. Okay, starting now. Alright, so we're gonna see Battler kind of backed into a corner.
頼まれてねえ時にばかり赤を乱発しやがって。
Time to set back to square one. For now, I've just got to think. I'll lay out everything I know. First, there are two victims. Jessica and Canon. Canon's corpse isn't here, but Beatrice admitted and read that Canon was killed. So even without a corpse, he's included as a victim. There are a few questionable points, and depending on what I focus on, my line of thought changes a lot. First, after the culprit committed murder in this room, how did they lock it? If we assume the culprit's someone with a master key, it's extremely simple. But I like to avoid that if I can. Because I'd have to suspect Goda or Kumasawa, or maybe even Shannon and Genji. Here I noticed something. I was contradicting myself. I was strangling my own neck. I wanted to deny Beatrice no matter what. I wanted to erase the existence of that brutal, fickle, ridiculous witch. So I have to explain everything with humans, not magic. But that also means suspecting some human. I don't want to suspect anyone. Of course, there's some clear proof I'll have to believe that the person in question is a culprit. But until that happens, I don't want to suspect people. Am I just naive? Oops. Am I just a kid who doesn't want to have my feelings betrayed when those feelings tell me that this person at least could never commit a murder? I wouldn't deny that a witch did it. I also wouldn't deny that a human did it. I don't even know what I'm doing right now. Hey, he's honest.
そもそもそなたとわらわのゲームは、わらわの存在を否定できるかどうかだけが勝利の条件だった。それだけでもそなたに不利なゲームなのに、そなたは勝手に勝利条件を増やし、自ら勝利を困難なものとしてしまっている。
It's just as she says. If I argue with someone with a master key did it, this closed room can be broken easily. However, the number of keys that can open this door is limited. And since it's clearly known who has them, using that argument means I'd be suspecting someone I know well. In fact, have I just been averting my eyes from the truth? In fact, have I... Oh. Even while attacking that closed room trick in the chapel, which was exhilarating to destroy, I proposed that someone stole the key from Maria's handbag and returned it. If that theory is right, then the question becomes, who could have stole the key from her handbag? Maria's handbag was probably the most unguarded while she slept. In that case, in addition to me, George and Jessica are also suspects. So George or Jessica is a culprit? Or maybe an accomplice? All of our parents have been killed, right? And yet, one of us consented to that and associated with the crime. We all lamented, mourned, and shed tears together in the chapel. And yet one among us was lying? I find that less likey.
そなたの例の手下げから抜き出し戻したという説はいとこたちを色濃く疑うものであったのだぞ。にもかかわらずそれに気づかないふりをしてよくもあれだけの説をシャーシャーとのたまえたものよ。
I would say a housekeep or a servant could be able to sneak in there too and take it, but I see why they would seem more suspicious, but it would only be George because Jessica's dead, so
くそ。
unless there's possession or something like
だ
that.
からって親族や使用人の誰かが犯人だって保証はねえ。お前が例えば段ボール箱にでも隠れながらコソコソと近づいてきて熟睡してる俺たちの部屋に忍び込んで鍵を奪った可能性だって十分あるじゃねえか。
それについてはそれでもよかろう。19人目の来客であるわらわを疑うことで彼らに疑いをかけずに済むならばジェシカの部屋の正常はどうする。わらわは魔法で鍵を開けることは造作もないがさすがにマスターキーは持たぬ。わらわの魔法を否定するならばわらわを疑うことも否定せねばならんぞ。そしてそれはつまりそなたら18人の中の誰かを疑うことよ。
親切にありがとうよ。少し整理できたぜ。俺にとっての目的は人間である19人目の来客ベアトリそうすれば
Sorry, guys.
誰も疑わずに済む。
それができればな。愚かな男よ。こんな部屋本来は密室でも何でもない。何しろ開けることのできる鍵は合計で6本も。そしてそれらの所有者は何人もいる。誰でも疑える。疑い放題よ。なのにお前はわざわざそれらを全て否定し自分で密室を作ってしまった。わかるか？これはお前の思考的矛盾が生み出した密室なのよ。他の誰でもないそなた自身が扉を閉ざしているのだ。
魔女が魔法で開けたことを認めるか俺の知る誰かが犯人であることを認めるかの二択だって言いたいんだな。
That's what she wants him to think.
くそ大手飛車取りのつもりかよ。
I've never
こ
heard
う
that
いう差し
analogy.
手もあると披露したかったまで。さてどうする後ろ宮バトラー。
I love the way she says battler.
実に簡単な話じゃないか。あの自意識過剰な料理男と死に損ないのクソババアをちょいと生贄に仕立て上げるだけじゃない。
I literally would not feel bad at all if Kumasawa or Goda died, but
幸田さんと熊沢さんを疑えばそれでいいのか。
can't he ask can he hit up Burn Castell?
俺は幸田さんが犯人だとは思えない。熊沢さんが犯人だとは思えない。
Yeah, no, they're too
だがお
incompetent.
前は認めない。
He's trying to have his cake and eat it too. I love the stubbornness.
ならば魔法もマスターキーも使わずにこの部屋に入りジェシカとカノンを殺ししかもカノンの死体を魔法を使わずに消失させねばならない。
Yeah, the Canon corpse thing is a bit.
どうやって行う？ わらわを否定しつつ、誰も疑わずにどうやって
Yes,
行
since
う
there's
の
no
か。
secret entrances, I believe she said in one of the red things too.
Design だ。
バトラ君、今なんて。
降参だよ。俺はカノン君にこの扉が施錠できないことは証明できた。だからといってジェシカを誰が殺したのかを特定できたわけじゃない。
いえ、十分です。そのカノン君のためにありがとうございます。
礼なんかいらねえ。それはつまり
That was actually impressive that
って
he
るってことなん
did
だから
that.
よ。ローザおばさんもごめんよ。別に反抗したかったわけじゃない。俺も死にたくないし、親父たちの本当の仇を見つけ出したい。協調性のないこと言って悪かったぜ。
Well, he was right though.
いいの。私も少し軽率だったわ。仲直りしましょう。おばとおい同士仲良くしないとね。
Aunt Rosa shifted the gun in one hand and held out the other. I reached out, and for the time being, we shook hands. Aunt Rosa's gaze was sharp. In order to deny the witch, she would sacrifice anything. Anyone. That's what her eyes told me. And me? I denied the witch. But I wasn't prepared to lose anything. I was probably the one who seemed to be fighting the most, and yet I was the one who was separated from reality. Jeez. So it's the afternoon now. Was that the morning still? With Jessica's death, it became certain that the culprit was hiding somewhere nearby, and that they'd come for our lives if they had a chance. According to Genji-san, when tomorrow morning comes, the boat should arrive. The boat had a radio. We'd probably be able to contact the police directly with that. All of us gathered in the parlor and decided to wait quietly until tomorrow. I proposed that we should search through the mansion for clues about the culprit, but Aunt Rosa rejected that, saying that if we managed to corner the culprit, or maybe provoke them, it might lead to a third murder. Well, that's going to happen anyways. That was probably the best thing to do. If a bunch of amateurs like us investigated, there would be no way we'd find anything. It would be the wisest to focus on protecting ourselves without doing anything unnecessary and leave it to the police starting tomorrow. We'd been tense at the beginning, but other than Aunt Rosa, most of us had spent all morning watching TV and getting bored, so our sense of danger had faded considerably. When we thought about it, yes, 6 adults certainly had been killed together in the first murder. But that made it seem like some backhanded method, like poison, had been used. And for the second murder, we figured those two became sacrifices because they'd been unfortunately isolated from the rest of us. From this, it was possible to imagine that the culprit wasn't a large number of adults. That they wouldn't be capable of killing this large group gathered in the parlor all at once. Right now in this parlor, there's George and me, Maria, Aunt Rosa, Genji, Goda, Shannon, Kumasawa, and then Dr. Nanjo for a total of 9 people. Well, 6 were killed before. Furthermore, Aunt Rosa was even armed with a gun. Surely with this many people staying in this room, they wouldn't be able to touch us easily. That feeling of security, along with the passage of time, allowed us to recover from the shock of the morning, bit by bit. By the way, lunchtime had just ended for us. However, it had been canned food lunch, a far cry from the dinner last night that Goda-san had skillfully made for us. Aunt Rosa had suspected that poison might have been used in the first murder. so he probably couldn't deny the possibility that the culprit had snuck into the kitchen during all that confusion in the morning and mixed poison with the ingredients there. Rosa gave orders to all of us saying that until the police came, we mustn't put anything into our mouths except safe things like canned food. Hazuku Goto-san must have felt very let down. Apparently eager to display his skill anyway, he said at least he wanted to grab some plates and arrange the canned food on them, of course. At first, Aunt Rosa had been reluctant, examining each one of the plates that were brought to make sure she couldn't find anything to complain about. And Gota's chef-picked canned food lunch combo was born. Goto-san said that something about the taste being savored not just with the tongue, but with the eyes as well. I see. It's the same canned food we ate for breakfast, but it feels like something completely different.
バトラ
Uh-oh.
見て見てこれが狼と羊のパズル。
As I was sitting lazily on the sofa with no desire to watch TV, Maria came over, pulled a picture book out of her handbag, and held it out to me.
あ、なんだよその本は。狼と羊のパズル？どれどれ？
Wolves and Sheep's Puzzle. It was a phrase that Aunt Rosa said this morning when we'd gone to call on Jessica. At the time, we hadn't known what it meant. Right after that was that uproar when Jessica's corpse was found, so I'd forgotten about it completely. The book that Maria held out to me looked like a foreign picture book or something that had been translated. When I opened it, I realized it was a book stuffed with riddles.
何匹かの狼と羊よね。一台のボートを使って対岸まで連れてくパズルなの。
ああ？そんなルールのゲームを聞いたことあるな。
Oh, I think if you have a certain amount of
これは
wolves
それの
with...
狼と羊バージョンなのか。
Okay. It was a very simple puzzle passed on from long ago. Let's try posing a question. On the right bank are 2 wolves and 2 sheep. There's a boat that as many as 2 animals can ride on, and using it you have to move all 4 of them to the opposite left bank. That's the puzzle. There are 2 rules. The first is regarding the boat. Even a single wolf or a single sheep can paddle it, but it can only hold 2 animals. The second rule is regarding wolves. When they are greater in number than the sheep at any location, they attack the sheep and it's game over. For example, at the start of the game, let's say that 2 sheep get in the boat and go to the other side. 1 sheep gets off and the other goes to the first bank. When it does, there are 2 wolves on the first bank and a single sheep returns there. When that happens, the number of wolves is greater, so the sheep is attacked and it's game over. In either bank, or even the boat, there must never be more wolves than sheep. And you gotta shuttle them across under these conditions. By the way, the right answer is to move both the wolves to the opposite bank on the first turn. Then 1 wolf comes back. Then a second turn you move 2 sheep to the opposite bank. Then 1 wolf comes back. Then on the third turn you put the 1 last wolf that was on the right bank of the boat and cross the opposite bank, and congratulations, transport successful. Partway there must be the same number of wolves and sheep in the boat or on either side, but that isn't a problem. You only lose when the number of wolves is greater. This book uses wolves and sheep as an example, but lots of people probably know this game using different characters. It looked like Maria wanted to test whether I could solve the puzzles she knew how to solve. And she kept showing me different pages, saying solve this one, and this one's hard. So that's what was happening when Rosa first mentioned the puzzle? That's right. When we decided to go and get Jessica, we talked about how many men should go. And Aunt Rosa mentioned the wolves and sheep puzzle, saying we should all go together.
おいおい。
That could only mean one thing. Aunt Rosa was saying that there was a wolf among us. So she was thinking that we'd be safer if the number of wolves and sheep was in balance, but that the wolves would bare their fangs if the situation changed. That is a very good way to look at it. At the time we found our parents' corpses, Aunt Rosa already suspected that servants might be wolves. She sniffed out the possibility that, while she didn't know whether it was all of them or some of them, there were wolves hiding among them. I honestly think Rosa's done everything. And Beatrice has gotten her to do it. Since we know she was in the damn chapel and that's not come up again. That's no surprise. That murder scene was very elaborate. It's easy to imagine that there were multiple culprits. And that's because she reached the conclusion that we went to Jessica's room and learned that Jessica had been killed after being alone with the servant Canon. It isn't hard to imagine why Rosa suspected the servants so persistently. Well, I think Rosa was at least involved in the first
使
one.
用人の皆さん、ゴーダさんが食器を洗いに厨房に戻ります。念のためです。皆さんも同行してください。
皆さん、申し訳ありません。団体行動で参りましょう。
シャノン、熊沢、行くぞ。
はいはい、ただいま。
それではジョージさん、一度失礼いたします。
うん。気をつけて。あ、ローザおばさん。
Oh.
僕も一緒に
She's
行って
gonna
いい
say
かな。
no to that.
ごめんなさい。ジョージ君は残ってくれるかしら。ちょっとお話ししたいことがあるの。
Of course.
そうですか。シャノン、ごめん。とにかく気をつけて。一人にならないでね。
はい。
南條先生、ちょっとご相談が。
はい、何ですかな。
How much wood could a woodchuck chuck? The servants put the dishes and empty cans onto the serving counter and started to head out into the corridor. Behind them, Aunt Rose was talking to Dr. Nanjo about something in a small voice.
わかりました。参りましょう。
ええ。よろしくお願いしますね。
Dr. Nanjo closed the book he'd been reading, rose from the sofa, and followed after the servants. Aunt Rosa stuck her head out into the hallway after seeing they were completely out of sight and closed the door and spoke.
みんな聞いて。これで今ここにいるのは、後ろ宮の人間だけね。
ん？確かに、そうなりますね。
狼を全部追い出したってことっすか？ローザおばさん。
With that one sentence, Aunt Rosa's gaze grew sharp. Apparently she had picked up on the sarcasm. She laughed lightly.
バトラ君は頭の回転が速いのね。賢い子は好きよ。話が早いわ。
おー、バトラー頭いいこれ解ける ?64 ページの難しいの。おー。
マリアは少しの間テレビを見ていなさい。
Maria's probably smart as
ママは
one,
バトラ
but
君たちとお話があるの。
おー。
ローザおばさん、パズルの話はバトラ君に聞いたよ。用心深いのは悪いことじゃないと思うけど、さすがに疑り深すぎるのもどうかと思うよ。
真の犯人がベアトリーチェかどうかは別にして、少なくとも使用人たちがその一味であることを疑うことはできると思うの。
have any servants died yet? Oh, Canon. Canon's the only one.
兄さんたちが殺されていた最初の殺人。とても残酷な仕打ちがされていたわよね。あれが、一人でできる真似に見える。
謎の来客、ベアトリーチェ様が夜鍋をして、 チクチクやったのかもしれねえぜ。
ジェシカちゃんの部屋の扉をめぐるマスターキーの件は使用人の誰かが関わっている証拠じゃない。
I think they're being... Has she not thought that... Oh, Jesus Christ. Only the master key could have locked the door to Jessica's room. So we can only suppose that one of the servants did it. No. Wait.
チェス盤をひっくり返すぜ。
Hell yeah.
おかしいよ。
Chessboard
ロ
time,
ーザおばさ
homie.
ん。なんで犯人はジェシカを殺した後、わざわざ施錠したんだ？施錠すれば、マスターキーの持ち主が疑われるのは必然。
Yes.
わざわざ施錠する必
There
要が
we
ないぞ。
go.
そうだよ。バトラ君の言う通りだ。わざわざ疑われるようなことをする理由がない。
Yeah, literally saved. It added like 10 seconds.
うん。それは面白い考えよね。もちろん、私もそれは考えた。だとしたら、施錠した人物は使用人を疑わせたくて、マスターキーなしであの扉を閉めた。でもそれは不可能。でしょ？
That's right. If there existed some trick that could lock the door without a master key, that would make this a great disguise for casting doubt on the servants. If the culprit's goal was to make us isolate ourselves from the group so they could attack us one by one, this trick would also be very effective at giving rise to paranoia. But there was no way to lock the door without using a master key.
マスターキーを使わずに閉める方法がない。なんて、どうして言い切れるの？ルドルフ兄さんの言っていた悪魔の証明になるんじゃない？私たちには想像もつかない方法で閉められたのかもしれない。私たちに思いつかないからといって、未知のトリックがあることを否定することにはならない。
そりゃそうだけどよ。つまりあれか？疑わしきは黒ってわけなのか？
具体的なトリックはわからないけれど、それでも外角はわかるの。申し訳ないけど、カノン君を犯人だと仮定すると、非常に簡単に説明できる。
Yeah, that's super
死体が
easy.
ない理由までね。
だって、カノン君はマスターキーを持ってなかったんですよ。
Yeah. Oh.
他の使用人ならともかく、カノン君にだけは施錠はできなかったはず。
なるほど。それでローザおばさんは、ジェシカの部屋に入って早々に、俺たちにクローゼットなんかを探せと言い出したわけか。ローザおばさんこそ、普段の様子から想像できるより、頭の回転が早いな。
Is that a compliment? It's kind of a backhanded compliment if I've ever heard one.
妹の頭の回転速度は、常に姉マイナス1よ。今は誰にも気を使う必要がないからせいせいするわ。
George realized that she was referring to Aunt Ava, and seemed a little uncertain about how he should take that sarcasm.
ごめん。僕にもわかるように説明してほしいな。カノン君のマスターキーはジェシカちゃんのポケットに入って密室に閉じ込められていた。施錠した後に部屋の外からポケットに入れるなんて芸当は不可能なはず。
違うんだよ、兄貴。ローザおばさんの想像しているやり方なら、このトリックはカノン君にしか使えない。そして、ジェシカのポケットにマスターキーを入れたまま、鍵なしで施錠することができる。そして、その結果として、死体もなくなることになる。
どうやって、鍵なしでどうやって施錠するんだい？
簡単よ。ジョージ君だって帰宅したら施錠するでしょ？
From
つ
the
まみを
inside.
ひねって、カチリとね。
まさか。いや、でも、カノン君の姿はどこにも。
兄貴にもピンときたみてえだな。ローザおばさんが室内を探したのはそういうことだ。内側から鍵を閉め、ジェシカのポケットに鍵を突っ込んだカノン君が、どこかに隠れて、俺たちをやり過ごそうとしているのを探したんだ。
It was the simplest kind of closed room trick. It meant him hiding inside the closed room after the murders was committed. Then, all he had to do was get out after those who discovered the body left, and the closed room murder would work perfectly.
私たちはあの部屋を探したけれど、何も見つけられなかった。でも、だからといって、あの部屋に使用人たちしか知らない秘密の隠し通路のようなものがないとは言えない。
I believe there isn't, though, based on the red
それがどこに隠されていたかはわからないけれど、その隠し通路を仮定し推理することで、彼しかありえないと断言できるのよ。
その推理はよ、俺も一番最初に考えた。
Yeah.
一番嫌な推理だから。一番最初にその可能性を潰したかった。
カノンはこの部屋で殺された。であろう？そなたはカノンが犯人であると疑いそうになったため、真っ先にその可能性を潰すために、これを復唱させたのだ。わかっておるわかっておる。
だから、その次に考えたのはこうだった。あの部屋にいたのは実は3人だったという説だ。ジェシカとカノン君は被害者。そして、犯人である来客ベアトリーチェも一緒にいた。という考えだ。
そなたは、人間であるわらわが、魔法を使わずに犯行を行ったことにしたいのだったな。なるほど。そなたにぴったりの陳説であるぞ。
お前は2人を殺し、内側から施錠した。そして、カノン君の死体を担いで、普通の人は気づかない秘密の方法。つまり、隠し扉を使って部屋から脱出したんだと読んだ。しかし、お前に赤で言われちまった。あの部屋に隠し扉の類はないってな。
うん。お前たちの知らない秘密の通路は存在せぬぞ。ノックスだったかバンダインだったか。何でもミステリーには秘密の通路があってはいけないらしい。そのお作法にわらわも従ったということよ。
That's nice of her.
つまり名探偵は部屋を調べ尽くさずして隠し通路がないと断言できるわけだ。人間の推理ごっことはなんとお気楽なものよの。
くそ。でけえこと言いやがるぜ。ありがとよ。魔女様のお取り計らいのおかげで、俺も部屋を探し尽くさずに、あの部屋に隠し扉がないと断言できるぜ。
うん。この部屋に隠し扉はない。扉と窓以外に出入りする方法はない。
Ah.
ってこと今、ローザおばさんがぶってる自信満々の仮説は、間違ってるってわけだ。
Correct.
しかも悔しいことに、この仮説は反証不能だ。魔女のお前は赤で、隠し扉はないと断言すれば、それで決着する。しかし人間の俺は、ローザおばさんにそれを反論しても、受け入れられないだろう。隠し扉がないことを人間は証明できない。悪魔の証明になっちまう。魔女ってのは便利だな。
そんな、あるかないかもわからない隠し扉を理由に、 カノン君を犯人呼ばわりするなんて
I mean, that is a bit excessive, I
僕は
agree.
納得できないな。
納得できないならより納得できる推理を聞かせて。ないのよ。
This is like the magic bullet shit with JFK.
私はずっと考えてる。これしかないのよ。ジョージ君はシャノンちゃんと仲が良かったわね。だから使用人全員が犯人であることは受け入れがたいと思うの。私もシャノンちゃんが犯人の一味であるなんて信じたくない。でも全員であるか否かはともかく、確実にあの中に犯人もしくは共犯がいるのよ。それだけは見誤っちゃダメ。
It's really not in Shannon's interest to do this because she's about to marry into the family. I just don't see how this would.
カノン君以外にも狼がいると見てたんだな。ジェシカの部屋で犯人はカノン君だと大騒ぎしたのは使用人たちの反応を見るためだったっていうのか。
ええ、そうよ。そしてその結果、私は一層の疑いを持つに至ったわ。確実に使用人の中に狼がいる。確実にね。そして狼と羊のパズルのように普段はおとなしくしているけれど、チャンスがあったら襲って。ジェシカちゃんは一人で船に乗った羊よ。
I could actually see Kumasawa Goda be kind of like end up being bad
あ
for
の
some
パズルで
reason.
は頭数の時は襲ってこないけど、私たちのパズルは違う。チャンスと人数次第なら頭数でも襲ってくる。
僕は怒りたいことがある。じゃあ厨房へ行かされてるシャノンは危険な状態じゃないか。今すぐ僕たちも厨房へ行くべきだ。誰が狼だろうと狼でなかろうと、僕たち全員が揃っていれば均衡するならそれを保ち続けるべきだと思う。
シャノンちゃんはお父様のところへ源氏さんと一緒に行った。その時に孤立したはずなのに殺されなかった。源氏さんも狼ではないから。違うわ。二人とも狼だったから。
Oh my gosh.
シャノンは悪事の片棒を担ぐような人じゃない。いくらローザおばさんでもそれは聞き流せません。今の発言に対し僕は取り消しを要求します。
兄貴の前で悪いが、その論法エヴァおばさんの雰囲気にそっくりだな。こっちが反論できなきゃ自動的に自分が正しいみたいな。やっぱり血は争えないな、おばさん。
私だって今の自分はあまり褒められたものじゃないとは思ってる。でもね、私は母なの。マリアの無事を守るためなら鬼にもなるわ。
Like, okay, guys, if we think about it this way, okay. Rosa, not only do we know, I keep bringing this up, but we know that she was in the church the night that everyone was killed, or at least it appeared that way to us. Sus as hell. And the three older siblings who would have more of a right to money and stuff were killed. Then the next rightful heir, which is Jessica, was killed. She looks the most guilty. Just saying, and no one said anything yet.
本当ならマリアと二人きりでどこかに閉じこもっていたいくらいよ。でも私は同時に、あなたたちの母でもあるつもりなの。今やあなたたちは私の子供も同然。
Are you gonna start smacking him too?
私は自分の子じゃないからといってあなたたちを見捨てたりしない。絶対。
そりゃどうも。
You should suspect everyone though.
私はあなたたちの母として 油断しないでと警告したかっただけなの。常に私の目の届くところにいて、私があなたたちを守ってあげる。
Yeah, I don't know if I want her protection.
ついでに、俺たちが狼でないことも監視してくれるってわけだ。そりゃありがたいぜ。そういうおばさんは、自分が狼ではないって証明はできるのかよ。
ええ、できるわ。
即答っすね。どうやって？
これよ。これが証拠よ。
Aunt Rosa lifted the gun and pointed her barrel at me. But it was only for an instant. She immediately lowered the gun, laughing impishly. But to me, the time I spent staring down the barrel of that gun felt like an eternity.
その銃がどうローザおばさんが犯人でないことを証明するというんですか？
考えてもみて。私が犯人だったらどう？使用人たちが出ていたこの千載一遇の機会を逃すと思う？あなたたちをズドンと撃って、あとは適当な言い訳をするだけよ。窓の外にベアトリーチェが現れて銃を撃ってきたとかね。私は2発を撃ち返したと称して2発分の空薬莢を床に捨て
The
れば。
fact that she thought this through is also disturbing.
そりゃ、すげえ乱暴な理論だが、確かに一理あるぜ。
クラウス兄さんが昔よく言ってたわ。力こそ正義ってね。これがまさにそうなのかしら。ごめんなさいね、二人とも。私も今朝からの事件続きでかなり冷静さを失ってる。普段の私を知る二人から見れば、今の私は余裕がなくて少し短気そうに見えるかもしれない。でも分かってる。
Yeah, she's the one that got the key. Like,
私は悪意ある犯人からあなたたちを守りたい。そのためには鬼になる。それだけのことなの。
It is interesting how all, like, her and, oh gosh, why am I blanking on her name? Not Ava, the other woman. Natsui. They both became very motherly to all the, like, grandchildren, or all the kids that were left.
怒らせるようなことを言ってごめんなさいね。バトラ君、ジョージ君、仲直りしましょう。
An unsatisfied expression rose to George's face. He probably couldn't forgive the damage done to Shannon's honor. What about me? Several bits of circumstantial evidence hinted at the servants' participation. I didn't want to believe that one of them was a culprit or possibly colluding with the culprit. But in our current situation, that was a little more than wishful thinking. Whom should I believe? In the first place, who is the culprit? Are there accomplices? And if so, how many? It seems I've only been suspecting the people we know. I quickly forgot the 19th person, the guest Beatrice, who arrived yesterday and boldly claimed to be the Golden Witch. In fact, I still haven't seen her face. I heard she greatly resembled the witch in that portrait, but since I haven't seen her directly, no matter how hard I try, it doesn't really feel to me that like a 19th person is on this island. So I've been subconsciously hallucinating that the culprit's one of the 18. Damn it. Come out, Beatrice. If you're the bad guy, then act like the bad guy and show yourself, laughing in a high-pitched voice and mocking us. Just like a bad guy in one of those dramas who, even when they're exposed as a culprit, aggressively says, "Where's your proof?" Oh? You rang?
証拠は終わりかな
うっせえ。てめえはしばらく黙ったろ。
There were 5 humans in the kitchen, but it was very quiet, filled with only the sound of rain. It was only accented by the sound of Shannon and Kumasawa washing the dishes. Goda was using the leftovers from breakfast and lunch as ingredients for a soup. Rosa had suspected that the poison might have been added to the food, so they decided to eat canned goods, but it hadn't been too satisfying. But Goda thought that she was being too cautious, so he was spontaneously creating a soup to be served only to those who wanted some. Shin and Kumasawa were washing the dishes that the food had been arranged on. On the inside, they thought that maybe Goda should watch them, since he was the only one who wanted food arranged on the plates in the first place, but they left their complaints unsaid for the time being. Genji and Nanja were facing each other across a crude chess set that had many years of experience. The game had still only just begun, and because of the opening game of these experienced players had been honed to perfection, it looked like a ceremony where they had just moved specific pieces into a specified order.
良い匂いですね。やはり缶詰ではこうはいきませんね。
開封した食材だけで作りましたので、毒が混入しているなんてことはありませんよ。皆さんの分もお作りしていますので、ぜひ食べましょう。もちろん、私もお毒味しますよ。安心して召し上がってください。
本当にいい匂いですね。合田さんのまかない料理は本当に美味しいです。
美味しい材料を買ってきて、美味しい料理が作れるのは当たり前です。私は師匠に、あり合わせのもので美味しく作るまかない料理を極めてこそ、真の料理人だと習いました。
Alright, we got it, homie. You're a good cook.
それはいい師匠でしたな。おかげで私はとても美味しいスープをごちそうになれそうです。親族の皆様にお召し上がりいただくための材料で作ることになってしまったのが残念です。ローザさんも朝からのいろいろでお疲れなのでしょう。無理もないことです。
でもそのおかげで美味しい食材のスープが飲めるのですからね。
Oh, yay. Someone kill her, please. Rose had fervently warned everyone that they didn't understand the danger they were in, and that they must assume that the poison was mixed in with the food. The mood at the time had led them to agree, but hunger wasn't something that could be swayed by a momentary emotion like that.
皮肉にも、普段の私たちではとても味わえないスープとなりました。できるなら、客間の皆さんにもぜひ振る舞いたいところなのですが。
ローザ様のご指示に背いている以上、よした方がいいだろう。飲みたいものだけ飲むといい。
ほほほほほ。見えないところで上手に息抜きするのも使用人の心得でございますものね。
When Kumasawa cackled, Shannon and Goda laughed too. It seemed that in this space where only fellow servants were gathered, they could relax quite a bit. Shannon didn't like Goda's occasional dishonesty, but she knew that there was no falsehood in his childish smile when he cooked, nor in his desire for people to enjoy his food. So even though it was a little aggravating to be made wash the dishes, she couldn't really hate him. However, they couldn't have dreamed that Rosa was calling them wolves in the parlor at exactly the same moment they were spending their time peacefully like this. At that time, several of the servants heard a sound of something like being dragged and then a thump. It seemed like a sound made by a servant outside the back door when they were carrying a large mountain of trash bags on a rainy day, or maybe when a servant was returning from work wearing a raincoat. So at first, that sound didn't seem like anything out of the ordinary to them. But they soon realized, right now, everyone was either in the kitchen or in the parlor, so who could possibly be at the back door? As the servants all looked up at each other, they checked to make sure that each one of them knew what the sound meant. Ooh, this is creepy. The servants knew the mansion layout well, so they understood how incomprehensible it would be for someone from the parlor to actually go outside in this typhoon, go all the way down, and come up to this back door. Then was it Kinzo? They couldn't imagine that Kinzo, who never left his study, would dash out into the middle of his typhoon and come back to the back of the house, where only low-class people ever entered or exited.
気のせいじゃないですよね。
Hell no. You guys are about to die. Kumasawa, you go out and check. Shannon and Kumasawa drew closer, fearfully looking at the back door.
どちら様ですか?
It's Jason. As Goda fearfully approached the back door, he called out, and his eyes flashed toward the butcher's knife that sat nearby the sink. He didn't pick it up yet, because there was still a possibility that this was a member of the family. However, that possibility wasn't possible. There was no response from across the door to Goda's initial question. Maybe his voice had been so quiet that it hadn't reached through all the wind and rain outside.
源氏さん。
南條先生と女たちは下がってる。一体どなたなんですかな?
Genji took a knife with a classical design from the stationery box placed near the chess set. It was something to be used instead of a paper knife to open up envelopes for statements of delivery and bills. But it was still a knife, so the blade on it could injure someone. Genji hid it in his sleeve with a well-practiced motion. Then he approached the back door himself, giving Goda a silent nod. Goda cautiously approached the back door and slowly started to open it. Ooh, I'm so nervous. I think it's going to be Kanon's body. The shadow of a person suddenly shuffled into sight, landed on his knees and fell over. Goda fell backwards onto his backside and couldn't get up. That human shadow was soaked with rain, smeared with mud, and drenched with blood.
Kanon? 大丈夫か? Nanjo sensei.
It was Canon. His breath was feeble, and the puddles of mud where he left were quickly drenched in bright red. When Nanjo held him and turned him face up, there was a deep, gruesome wound in the right center of his chest, as though he'd been stabbed there by a spear or something. Even now, deep red blood poured out from there. How is this fool still alive? She must have kept him alive. Somehow. He needs a single band-aid.
Kanon-san, 傷口に手を当てて、しっかり押さえてください。使用人室のベッドに運びましょう。皆さん、手を貸してください。
さあ、カノンさん。しばらく我慢してください。
しっかりして。もう大丈夫よ。だから、傷口から手を離さないで。
とにかく使用人室へ運ぼう。
Didn't Beatrice say he was killed? It's not looking good for the red writing.
熊沢はローザ様にカノンが見つかったことの報告を。
待って。ローザ様にはダメ。
Oh, I knew Rose. She's possessed.
待ってく
I
ださい。
fucking knew it.
カノンさんがローザ様にはダメだと言っています。
どういう意味なの、カノン君。
今はいい。
Yep, no, it is a time for
早
that.
く使用人室へ運ぶ。
You guys need answers now.
熊沢、ローザ様にはまだお伝えするな。カノンに事情を聞いてからにする。
はい。
He had told him not to tell Rosa right after appearing in this state. This could only be something very disquieting? An eerie anxiety rose to their faces.
さあ皆さん、急いで運びましょう。早く。
Kanon's wound was unbelievably deep, and judging from Nancho's pale face, it was a miracle that he was still conscious.
これはひどい。 何か槍のようなもので刺されたようです。肺まで届いてなければなんとか持つかも。とにかく止血を。
Can't feel good. No matter how much Nanjo tried to wipe off that gushing blood, deep red blood, he couldn't do it. He couldn't wipe it all away. Each time the wound was aggravated, causing Canon to cry in anguish.
Kanon君、Kanon君、Kanon君、しっかりして、しっかりして。
南條先生、替えのタオルです。なんてむごい。
You're gonna need like 30 towels, son.
容体はどうですか？本音を言うと、生きているのが信じられん深手だ。刺されどころが幸運だったのかもしれん。だが出血がひどすぎる。輸血が必要だが、明日まで無理だ。
Has he been living on like mana or something?
ローサ様が僕たちを
喋らないで。
No, I wanna know.
傷口が開いち
I
ゃう。
don't care if it opens.
ローサ様がやってきてお嬢様と
What?
僕は
なんですって。
That doesn't make...
ローザ様がですか？
Is this a fake body?
おお、そんなことって。
間違いないのか？
はい、間違いなくローザ様でした。
さあ、もう喋らないで。熊沢さん、もう一つの救急箱を取ってください。
源氏さん、ローザ様がなんてことはあり得るのでしょうか？
わからん。
Disregarding Nanjo and Kumasawa, who were struggling hard, stained with blood, they tried to stop the bleeding. Genji and Goda faced each other. Because if what Canon said was the truth, Rosa was the culprit who killed Jessica.
おのれ、ローザめ。よくもお嬢様を殺してやる。
Canon screamed even more hatefully. His hate-filled voice made it seem like he was seeing Jessica being harmed right before his eyes.
確かにローザ様がお嬢様を殺す理由はあるかもしれない。
Beatrice messed with this somehow. I don't know how though.
後ろ宮家が全滅すれば遺産は全てローザ様のもの。
Yes.
だとしたらバトラ様やジョージ様も危険なのでは。ローザ様は銃を持っている上に今客間には彼らしかいない。源氏さん、これはかなりまずいことでは。
Shannon suddenly ran out into the corridor. Her expression was complex and tragic, as though she didn't know what to believe. She's gonna run out there and get shot. Shannon ran. To where? The inside of the mansion had been scrupulously clean, so it probably wouldn't be easy to find. She might find if she searched the rose garden, but they'd probably all been lost in the wind and rain. What? That's right, the boiler room isn't cleaned very often. If she went there, she might be able to find it. Shannon ran downstairs to find that in the underground boiler room. I'm gonna laugh if it's a chainsaw. Did some medicine take effect at the brink of death? Or was Canon finally beyond feeling pain? For the time being, at least Canon's painful gasping had subsided. Nanjo apparently didn't view this as a very good sign. He didn't want to let his eyes off Canon for a second. Kumasama firmly gripped Canon's hand and kept encouraging him so that the willpower keeping him alive didn't fade away. Genji and Goto seemed uncertain about how to respond to the truth Canon had risked his life to deliver.
ローザ様の銃は確か4発か5発の弾が込められたはずだ。
決して少ない数ではないですね。でもあの銃は弾の装填に結構な慣れが必要だったはず。一発目は撃たせてしまうかもしれませんが、みんなで襲いかかれば次を撃たせずに銃を奪い取れるかも。
この島には医者はいても薬はなく、病院もない。撃たれどころが悪ければ死ぬぞ。
Yeah, but that's worth it
それ
for
は分かっ
everyone
ていますが、
else to live.
それより早く行動を起こさないとまた次の事件が起こる可能性も。
Dude, as much as I don't like Goda, he's been freaking very smart this whole route.
私たちはローザ様にうまく追い出された気がします。今頃ジョージ様やバトロ様が殺されている可能性も。
Beatrice is doing a good job putting these people against each other, that's for sure.
そんな危険な相手なら無理に刺激しない方がいいんじゃありませんか。
しかし明日までは長い。どんな手を打ってくるか想像もつきませんよ。源氏さん、こちらから仕掛けるべきです。せめて10歳理由をこじつけて奪えばなんとかなるかも。
Yeah, my thoughts are that Beatrice kind of killed him, but then brought him back to life somehow, and then planted the memories of Rosa doing that.
弾は4、5発じゃありませんか。ということは私たち全員を殺すには足りないということです。迂闊に刺激しなければきっとローザ様もむやみには。
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't go that far.
あいつは言ったよ。僕たちを皆殺しにすると言った。
I do think she's possessed by a witch. I don't know if she actually did any of these things, but Canon, who they thought was sleeping quietly, suddenly started talking brightly. Almost as though he'd been awake this whole time and suddenly opened his mouth. Canon looked firmly and steady, which relieved Nanjo a bit, but considering the depth of that wound, he couldn't wipe away a certain crappy feeling. He knew because he was a doctor. After losing much blood, Canon might easily have lost consciousness, and yet somehow he was still intensely aware of his surroundings. Was it youth? Or was it tenacity? Or was it magic? Sometimes the power of human life surpassed common knowledge. While stopping the bleeding, Nanjo groped around a bit inside the bleeding hole with tweezers, making sure there were no foreign objects inside the affected area. And the great depth of the wound had shocked him. It had certainly reached as far as his lungs. And yet, no, but in fact, he's still alive is wonderful. But Canon had spoken clearly. He hatefully stated that one named Rosa made this wound, cursing and raging over and over.
Oh,
his eyes.
台風が過ぎ去るまでにどんな手を使ってでも皆殺しにする気なんだ。
くそ、なんて人だ。源氏さん、どうしましょう。私たちにも何か武器がいるのでは。
にわかには信じられん。ローザ様がそのようなことを。
源氏様、信じる信じないじゃない。あいつが僕にそう一行の僕が聞いたんです。どうして信じてくれないんですか。
Hush, your eyes are red.
起き
Like
な
a
いで
demon.
傷に触ります。
Canon sat up on the bed speaking to Genji, who didn't seem to be willing to believe Canon's story.
あいつは僕たちを必ず全員殺す。もうきっと客間の方々も殺されているに違いありません。僕らが先に殺さなければ必ず僕らが先に殺される。僕が先に殺されたようにみんなも先に殺される。殺さなきゃ殺される。殺さなきゃ殺される。殺さなきゃ殺される。
カノンさん、あんた本当に痛くないのか？
ああ、これですか。
I had a Tylenol.
大した傷じゃありません。
大した傷じゃないどころか、あんた
本当に大したことありません。こんなのもう全然痛くないし、本当に大した傷じゃない。
It's just a flesh wound. As Canon said that, he began to untie the bandages that had been painstakingly wrapped. The gruesome hole in his chest was immediately exposed.
カノンさん、
Yeah, he has to be.
そんなことをしては
Has
ダ
to
メ
be
ですよ。
possessed.
早く横になって。
大丈夫ですって。ほら、ねえ、大した傷じゃないでしょ。
Canon showed off his gaping wound, which was slowly spitting out foamy blood. Everyone averted their eyes reflexively.
ほら、全然大した傷じゃないですって。
やめなさい。傷をいじってはいけません。
This is kind of reminding me of in Tropic Thunder, you know how the director's head like blows off and Ben Stiller thinks it's a fake head and he's like pouring it. It's kind of reminding me how Canon's just like, oh, nothing's wrong with this. He's probably like reaching inside and stuff.
ほら、
Oh, what a weirdo.
全然深い傷じゃないんですよ。ほら、ほら。
Canon held up 2 fingers, showed them to everyone, and slowly started into the gruesome wound right in the center of his chest. Plunging, slimy, squishy, wet. The fingers went in deep, all the way to their bases. Squish, gloop, bloop. Oh, is she gonna...
カノンさん、やめて、やめて。
Those fingers were sticking all the way into his chest up to their bases. And then he slowly pulled them out in the exact same way. The fingers he pulled out were stained, sticky, solid, deep red color. And there was even a thread hanging. Ugh. The fingers were covered up to their bases in deep red. Your homie is a demon at this point or something.
ね。全然大した傷じゃ
Oh, if someone...
ないでしょ。
If I was one of those people, I would have thrown up for sure. Beatrice is in him. At that moment, the door was slammed open and Shannon appeared. Even after she saw Canon, stained with fresh blood, her impregnable expression didn't falter.
やあ、姉さん。どこへ行っていたの？僕が既得だというのに。一体どこへ？
Holy water.
ボイラー室に行ってきたの。探し物があって。それより確かめたいの。あなたは本当にカノン君。
It was only natural. Everyone believed he was Canon. So they couldn't understand the meaning of Shannon's question. When they looked, they noticed Shannon was holding a handkerchief in her hand. It was filthy and looked like it had been used to wipe up some trash or dust. And while holding it, she approached Canon, drawing closer to his feet.
なんだい、それは。
蜘蛛の巣を拭き取ったハンカチよ。
なんでそんなものを。
カノン君なら平気だろうけど、もしあなたにとって蜘蛛が天敵だったなら嫌うかなって思って。
やだな。僕がどうして雲を嫌うの？
ごめん。試すね。
シャノンさん。
When Shannon brought that handkerchief close to Canon's thigh, something happened in an instant. It all happened at once. A human eye couldn't have followed it. Canon jumped like a wild goat, fleeing from the thing Shannon was holding. Then, from his arm, some kind of afterglow flashed purple and drew a curve through space. That arc, which drew three beautiful purple curves, traced along the throats of Nanjo and Kumasawa, who had been tending to him. And then, in an instant, Nanjo and Kumasawa's throats opened like gaping mouths, and then the blood started spewing out. The third purple curve should have traced across Shannon's throat, but Shannon wasn't there, because Genji, who had been behind her, had wrapped his own arms around Shannon's neck and pulled her back. This all happened in an instant. The instant it took for Goto to think fast in an attempt to understand this scene, the frozen moment in time shattered. Blood was gushing from Nanjo and Kumasawa's torn open necks. Kanon jumped and kicked off a picture frame that had been hanging from the wall behind him, springing forward like a cat, aiming for Shannon's throat again. But Kanon's target once again disappeared from in front of him, because Genji had pulled Shannon again, and the two of them had fallen to the ground in a defensive crouch.
いい反射神経だ。この老いぼれ家具が。
5だ。
Is Goto gonna be trained? Probably not. Even Goto was no fool. Even if he couldn't fully understand what was going on, at least he realized that if this wasn't Canon seized, his own life would also be in peril. He sprung at Canon with his huge body, pushing him up against the wall with all his weight and physical strength. Falcon Punch! Another purple curve was drawn from the tips of the fingers on Kanon's right hand. And when he raised that hand like a sword aiming for Goto's back, there was a loud thunk, because Kanon's hand had raised had been pinned to the wall. He couldn't tear his palm away from the wall. Sticking out from it was the knife that Genji had thrown. Under normal circumstances, it would have been surprising to see someone as old as Genji handle a knife so skillfully, but in this abnormal space, no one paid it much mind.
源氏様、これを。
Genji took out the handkerchief with a spider web stuck to it from Shannon, and he approached Canon, who was pinned by the wall, with Goto's massive body and the knife. So is Beatrice scared of spiders? I must have missed that. Or is this another witch? When Genji pushed the handkerchief up against Kanon's face, there was a sound like setting meat on a red-hot iron plate. Of course, the smell was the same too. As he was horribly burned, festering in filthy red and black, crying out his own death throes, Kanon's body burst open and scattered. It was almost as though a balloon filled with golden leaf had popped. The entire servant room was completely buried under a storm of gold leaf. No, a cloud of gold butterflies. The butterflies began to softly fade as though into water, or rather into an emptying air itself. And afterwards, all that was left was 3 survivors on their butts stained with blood. However, not everyone was merely stained with blood. Some of them were lying on the ground, spurting out blood themselves.
Kumasawa! Nanjo sensei!
Slits so sharp they look like they cut your fingers if you touch them open wide. A large amounts of blood kept pouring out.
何だったんだ。今のは。
5だ。怪我はないか。
Dude, I'm impressed Goda was...
私は大丈夫です。しかし、私たちは何を見たんだ。何があったんです。私はあれを確かにこの手でこの壁に押し付けていたのに、その私が何があったのか理解できない。
Goda looked at his own hand. It was bright red blood was left from a scuffle with Canon. Definitely remained. And yet Canon was nowhere to be seen, because he had disappeared. He had transformed into gold butterflies and scattered. Goda kept screaming alone, without a clue about what was going on. Shannon sobbed in front of Nanjo and Kumasawa's remains, and Genji watched over her silent as always. That was freaking wild. Wow. So weak to spider webs.
南條先生と熊沢さんが一体どういうことなの？
ああ、シャノン、無事でよかった。君に何かあったら僕は。
庄司様。
ジョージ君、少し静かにして。あなたたちの目の前で殺人が行われたんでしょ。犯人を見たの？見ないの？
This is gonna be hard to describe.
それが何と説明すればいいのか。源氏さん。
私たちにも見たものをうまく説明できません。
確かにそれは私たちの目の前で起こりました。私の目の前にいた。だけれど、あれは何だったんだ。私にもわからないんです。
I mean, that would be pretty disturbing, not gonna lie.
何を言ってるの？あなたが出会ったのは昨夜から所在不明の魔女ベアトリーチェか、行方不明になっているカノン君かのどちらかしかありえない。
Well, it's both.
男か女か、それだけでも答えられるでしょう。
ローザおばさん、少し落ち着けって。目の前で二人やられりゃ誰だって混乱だってする。ゴダさん、元気さん、焦らなくていいぜ。何があったのか順を追って話してくれ。
それが何を私は言えばいいのか。
I'm curious of how they're going to describe this. Dr. Nacho and Kumasawa had been killed. We understood that much, and it seemed that it occurred right in front of these people's eyes. But even so, they spoke awkwardly. They admitted that they definitely had seen the crime with their own eyes, but when asked to explain what they had seen, their mouths went suddenly shut. I could understand why Aunt Rosa was infuriated and flaring up.
シャノン、君は見たのかい？南條先生が襲われるところ。
はい。
僕に教えて。分かることだけでもいい。一体何があったの？
勝手口に来たんです。
そうです。勝手口に誰かがやってきたんです。
Someone's always tried to come in the back door.
そして誰だろうと私は扉を開けました。
勝手口に誰か？それは誰？
最後まで言わせてやれ。それから
そいつは血まみれで大怪我をしていました。私たちは使用人室に運び、すぐに南條先生が手当てをしました。とても深い傷でした。
だからそれは誰のことなの？
わからないんです。確かに最初はそうだと思っていました。いや 今でもそうだと思ってるんです。でもあれは一体わからない。わからない。
In a manner that didn't match his large body, Goda held his head and scratched it. I didn't have a clue if he was confused or he couldn't remember, or because he'd seen something terrifying and couldn't accept it. And Shannon looked the same way. If she let her guard down, what she'd seen a short while ago would certainly melt away like a daydream, and she wouldn't be able to remember anything. That's what she looked like. Only Genji looked composed as usual, so the questions were naturally directed to him. However, even Genji took quite some time before he spoke, and he had to gather his thoughts.
源氏さん、あなたは見たんでしょ。勝手口に来たのは誰？
はじめ、私たちはその人物がカノンであると信じました。
ほら、やっぱり生きていたでしょ。私の推理は正しかった。
No, it definitely was not.
初めはってことは、後にその認識は変わるってこと？
はい。その後に起こったことは口では説明できません。南條先生と熊沢を殺し、そして姿を消しました。その時、彼は間違いなくカノンにはありませんでした。
そうなんです。源氏さんの言う通りなんですよ。口ではとても説明できない。
君も同じ意見なのかい？
はい。私も同じことしか申し上げられません。
I'm trying to I feel bad for them having to explain this situation. If we give their claims the benefit of the doubt, it means that Aunt Rosa's first conclusion was correct. Canon had appeared near the back door of the kitchen with a serious injury. Then he had been taken to the servant room and cared for. And after that, something terrifying had happened. So were these people so convinced that Canon-kun couldn't possibly have done such a thing, that they'd started to suspect whether it had been Canon-kun at all? In other words, that means Canon-kun did appear. No matter how confused they are, and no matter how muddled their words, that's what it means in the end. So does that mean after all Canon-kun used some trick to escape the room even though it was locked? No, that doesn't matter anymore. The real problem is that Dr. Nanjo and Kumasawa were killed. Aunt Rosa claimed that Canon had been behind this from the very beginning. No matter how confused these people are, no matter how much they try to deny it, they're halfway confirming that she was right. But even so, for some reason I felt like their awkwardness couldn't be explained by confusion alone. What else did they see? Like they said, did they really see something that couldn't be explained with words? Aunt Rosa, who decided that a further talk wouldn't get us anywhere, concluded her questioning and said she wanted to check the two bodies. That was something I'd been wanting to do too. The witnesses had been unable to figure anything out, but they'd been shaken. If those of us who hadn't been at the scene calmly look at the corpses, we might find something. But it was a little surprising to learn that Aunt Rosa, who was also concerned about the bodies, even at this point, I still wanted to use any clues I could find to expose the culprit and the truth myself. But it should have been different in Aunt Rosa's case. Hasn't Aunt Rosa's prioritized staying safe over finding the culprit? I couldn't really see why she'd go to all the trouble of leaving our barricade in the parlor just because she wanted to check the bodies.
みんなで一緒に使用人室に行きます。全員一緒に行動すれば安全よ。マリア、落書き遊びはおしまいになさい。
おお、落書きじゃない。ベアトリーチェの問題を解いてるの。
Yeah, everyone should be trying to do this.
おお。
ベアトリーチェの問題？何のことだよ。俺にも教えてくれよ。
ローザおばさん。マリアちゃんも、連れて行くんですか？
$10 says she handles the situation very strangely. It seems that George was against the idea of bringing Maria to the bloody crime scene. But considering that Maria would be left alone, all alone if left here, it'd surely be much safer to take Maria with us. In the end, it was just Aniki's irresponsible humanism. We decided that all of us, including Maria, would go to the servant room. It's going to bother her the least, to be honest. The bed in the servant room was stained bright red blood. No, not just the bed. The whole room was covered with a gruesome paint from countless bloodstains. The dreadful scene alone was enough to give us an idea of the repulsive sight they've been trying to describe.
おお、マリアも見る。
マリアちゃんは僕と一緒にここで待っている
You
ね。
should probably use Maria to help. George was standing by the entrance, covering Maria's eyes with his back to the room. He probably didn't want to direct an innocent girl's retinas with the repulsive blood in this room. That was surely the correct decision. I was acting tough right now, so I didn't mind. But for the rest of my life, whenever I see red paint scattered around, I'll probably remember this room and start to vomit. My retinas have already had this room burned into them. In other words, it's already too late for me.
あら、
どこへ？
Right after they entered the servant room, Goda and Shannon trembled. We shook, wondering what horrible new situation had arisen to make them tremble again.
どうしたの？何事？
Aunt Rosa also shuddered, raising her gun high in search for whatever it had been that made them shudder. Yeah, the bodies are gone, I bet. But she couldn't find it. It was only natural. They were trembling because they couldn't find it.
なんだなんだ。どうしたってんだ一体。
二人の遺体がありません。
どういうことなの？
そんなはずないんです。確かにお二人はここに。
おいおいおい。なんだよ。死体がどこかへ歩いてったってのか。そんなわけはないだろ。だってこの使用人室施錠されてたんだろ。それを今郷田さんが開けて入ったわけじゃないか。ってことはなんだ。ジェシカの部屋と同じってことかよ。また密室の中から消えたってのかよ。そんなバカな。
私にも何のことやらさっぱり。私たちはこの部屋を出るとき確かに鍵をかけて、私こそ何が何やらもうわからないのです。
There was a timid, pitiful smile on Goda-san's face that he definitely wouldn't have let show normally. Shannon was the same.
二人の死体が消えた。しかも鍵をかけたのに消えた。仮にカノン君が犯人だとしても、カノン君はマスターキーをもう持ってないはず。
Yeah, that's true.
違います。カノン君は犯人じゃありません。
シャノン、僕はシャノンを信じるよ。
Homie's trying
カ
to
ノン
get
君
some
は犯人なん
tonight.
かじゃない。きっとこれは彼によく似た何者かの仕業なんだ。
いえ、カノン君はマスターキーを手に入れられたわよ。だって彼のマスターキーはジェシカちゃんの遺体のポケットから見つかった。そしてその鍵は誰が手に入れた？
そうだ、南條先生が。
That's right. Back then it was definitely Nanjo who searched through Jessica's clothes and found the master key. So if someone had the opportunity to search Dr. Nanjo's corpse, it would have been easy for him to take the master key back. And Rosa searched under the bed and in the locker. By now, I also understood what that meant. If you assume there are two culprits, this can easily be explained. The first person was Canon, or maybe an imposter who looked like him. He finished off Dr. Nanjo and ran off somewhere. The second person was probably the 19th person, Beatrice, whose location was unknown. That person hid under the bed in the servant room beforehand, and while Dr. Nanjo's body was enshrined here, they waited for Genji and the rest to leave. Then later they crawled out, took the master key back from Dr. Nanjo's pocket, and carried two corpses away for some reason. If they then locked the door with the master key, you'd end up with this Cole's room. Okay.
ジェシカの部屋の推理を前提になかなか素早く組み立ててきたものよ。 その方法なら魔法でなくても密室は作り出せよう。まずは及第点というところか。
I think so.
しかし実に面白いが、お前の言う方法で犯人がマスターキーを取り返したなら、その犯人はマスターキーをジェシカの遺体から南條が回収したことを知っていたことになる。
言われなくても分かってるぜ。
Who saw that?
あの時、あの場にいた人物以外知り得ない情報だって言いてんだろ。
So that's like the family, basically.
この第三の密室があっさり破られちまったもんで、そういう手で俺に闇を言うしかねえんだろ。同じネタの繰り返しは芸がないぜ。
I may have managed to bluff, but that move of the witches hurts bad. I can tell that I'm cracking under the thing that I want to deny the most. This person is trying to close in on me from two directions. On the one hand, there's a frontal attack, where she tries to force me to believe that there's a witch using closed room tricks that only a witch could do. And on the other hand, there's a rear attack, where she tries to lure me in, wanting the witch to exist, by strengthening my suspicion of those close to me. In the first closed room, the chapel, she used a frontal attack, but it didn't work on me. So by the second closed room, and now in the third closed room, she's definitely changing the direction of her attack. However, the fact that she's changing the direction of her attack proves that my resistance is having some effect. And she must have given up on the frontal attack because she clearly can't win with it. I tried to settle my unease by thinking these things, but apparently the witch had seen through me long ago.
成功法は書かぬ。絡めては成功法と同時に進めてこそ意味がある。絡めてのみに出するは手段が目的となった時に起こる愚策に過ぎぬぞ。
そうですかい。じゃあ、お得意の赤で、何者かが使用人室に隠れていたを復唱してもらおうじゃないか。
その必要はない。お前の推理の前提は、今から崩れる。
お拒否かよ。やっぱり誰かが隠れていたんだな。
ローザが今からお前の前提を崩す。まあ、耳を傾けて
Alright,
み
let's see
よ。
what Rosa says.
信じてください、ローザ様。確かにここに二人の遺体を安置したんです。この床の真っ赤な血は彼らのものなのです。
And Rosa began to search through various objects around the room, her back to Goda-san as he cried out in suspicion. Eventually she found something, and for a while stopped moving.
ローザ様、私たちは断じて嘘などついては、間違いなく二人の遺体はここにあったんです。
静かに。死体を隠した本人が死体はよそに持ち去ったと告白しているわ。これでね。
Rosa showed them a single sheet of paper over her shoulder.
それは一体。まさか、礼拝堂にあったのと同じ、紋章入りの封筒の手紙？
ええ、そうよ。ここに堂々と置いてあったわ。読むわね。
後宮家の皆様、黄金の碑文の謎解きはいよいよ佳境に入りましたでしょうか。皆さんに私を止めることができる唯一の方法が碑文の謎を解くことなのです。それ以外のいかなる方法をもってしても私と儀式を止めることはできません。くれぐれも皆さんの目的をお間違いなきようよろしくお願い申し上げます。私を探そうとも無駄、私から逃れようとも無駄、私を否定しようとも無駄なのです。 黄金のベアトリーチェ。
追伸、二人の遺体を儀式にお借りします。
Oof.
後ほどご返却いたしますので、ご容赦をお願いいたします。あと、この鍵は皆様のものですので、ご返却いたします。
As Rosa read that aloud, the contents of the envelope lay exposed in the palm of her hand. They were 2 master keys. The master key Nancho had found in Jessica's pocket, which had originally been Kanon's, and Kumasawa's master key.
なんだとってことは、どういうことだよ。ふざけんなよ、またかよ。またマスターキーを持ってる使用人しか疑えないってのかよ。
わらわは赤では言ってはおらぬぞ。彼らがこの部屋に施錠をして去った時、この部屋に何者かが隠れていた可能性を否定してはおらぬぞ。
ベッドの下にでも隠れれば、死体をどこかへ運び出すのはできないことじゃない。しかし、それじゃ施錠ができない。わざわざ手に入れたマスターキーを、ここへ置いてっちまってる。そうだ、忘れてた。この部屋の本来の鍵である、使用人室の鍵はどうなっている？
それなら使用人室の奥のキーボックスに収められているぞ。使用人室の鍵は数本あるが、そのすべてがキーボックスに収められている。
ってことは、ジェシカの部屋の鍵の時と状況は何も変わらないってことか。使用人も便利なマスターキーがあれば、不要な鍵はわざわざ持ち歩かないもんな。キーボックスにしまわれっぱなしになってるのも納得だぜ。
その他の条件も何も変わらぬ。出入りは唯一の扉と唯一の窓から以外は不可能。故に、隠し扉などの不正規な出入り手段は否定される。喜べ名探偵ども。そしてそれらはいずれも施錠されていた。扉も窓も、施錠時にはいかなる出入りも許さない。
Or exit.
つまり、施錠を維持したまま、扉を外す、隙間を作ってすり抜けるなどなどは通用しないということだ。当然だが、扉の開錠は、使用人室の鍵とマスターキー以外は不可能。
Wow. Okay.
毎回これを読み上げるのも面倒だの。
I'm a bit stumped on this one, I think. Some of the other ones I've been able to figure out, like there is like a way for a human. I don't know if I'm tired or what, but this one's a bit.
今度これをまとめて一言に略す言葉でも考えよう。
For the next session, I'm gonna have pad of paper. I'm gonna write out the red things and keep track of them while I'm going.
だが、この部屋に誰かが隠れていたことは復唱できねえだろ。しかしそれだけでは密室の扉が破れない。ああ、くそくそ！ダメだ、全然ダメだ。
Yeah, I'm legit stumped on this one now. I feel kind of dumb. I can't figure it out.
お得意のチェス盤をひっくり返すとやらはどうした？自慢の陳説をぜひ披露してみよ。
I love his chessboard shit now.
チェス盤をひっくり返す。
Yeah, let's go.
俺が犯人ならどうする？死体をどこかへ運び出す。手紙を残す。内側から鍵を閉める。ここから何かの方法で部屋を
Couldn't you
脱出すればいいん
lock
だ。
it while it's open? I don't think it said that it has to be closed to be locked. Right?
くそ、そんな方法はあるのか。扉と窓以外からは外に出られないと赤で言われちまってる。
At that moment I got it. That's right. The culprit carried away the corpses, left the letter, and since they didn't use a hidden door, they weren't able to escape. That's it. This isn't a question, it's an answer. Oh, they're still in there?
ベアト、復唱要求の前に、お前の言う隠し扉の定義を確認したい。
何を思いついたやら。よかろう。説明する。隠し扉とは、知らぬ人間が認識できぬ出入り口のことであろうが。そんなこと子供でも知っておろう。
つまり、部屋の外に出られなかったら、それは隠し扉じゃないってことだよな。
Oh, there's like a hidden compartment.
ほう、そうきたか。
俺は、犯人は密室から抜け出したものだとばかり思っていた。違うんだ。犯人だって密室から、だから隠れてやり過ごそうとした。
During the second closed room, I tried applying this theory to Canon, but after hearing Canon was killed and read, I gave up. After that, I proposed that a third person might have been in the room before escaping through a hidden door. And then, for the first time, I was faced with the red claim that no hidden doors exist. Now, move from that to what I've just learned. The term hidden door refers to things that make it possible to enter or leave a room. In other words, that category doesn't cover things that don't actually lead in or out of the room. Even if these things can never be recognized by people who didn't know about them beforehand. So if we had something like a hidden shelf or a secret closet, for example, that wouldn't count as a hidden door. That means that a third person from Jessica's room is hiding there, waiting for us to leave. So there could just be another... I mean, yeah, you could get real flexible with the term closet, but... how pathetic. It was all just a bit of wordplay. Looks like a technique should be enough to handle even this third closed room. If there's a hidden shelf under the bed or something like that, that'd be enough. Elf on a shelf. The culprit hiding somewhere waiting for us to leave. The culprit is also trapped in this closed room, even now. Which means at this very moment, the culprit is hiding in the servant room, holding their breath. And that means, what the hell? Even though we've been tortured by these closed rooms 3 times, at this very moment, we're actually gotten the culprit in checkmate.
ようやく見えてきたぜ。くらえ、ベアト！復唱要求！この部屋には、俺たち以外の誰もいない。俺たちってのは、俺、ジョージの兄貴、マリア、ローザおばさん、ゲンジさん、ゴーダさん、シャノンちゃんのことだぜ。
I don't know why I didn't think of that. I feel dumb.
どうだ？言えねえだろ。
Ooh, she got that little bead of sweat.
痛えとこ疲れただろ。拒否なら拒否と言いやがれ。次行くぜ。気象要求。
I don't know how they're hiding in this room, but if they are, then this solves the second closed room, Jessica's room, at the same time. I finally caught her by the tail. With this, I can explain everything. Witches don't exist, and I don't have to suspect anyone. Alright, starting now, I'll spin it all around. Now I'll have her repeat that.
この部屋には、お前たち以外は存在しない。
The fuck?
お前たちの定義とは、バトラー、ジョージ、マリア、ローザ、ゲンジ、ゴーダ、シャノンのことを指す。ジェシカの部屋に話を戻す。
Oh wow. Okay.
ジェシカの死体発見時、ジェシカの部屋にいたのは、バトラー、ジョージ、マリア、ローザ、ゲンジ、ゴーダ、シャノン、クマサワ、南條のみだった。
What if you're in... Does this have... So this has nothing to do with, dimensions? Maybe there's a dimensional thing and it's technically not the same... I don't know. There might be a dimension.
おっと、死体のジェシカももちろん含む。
I was about to say, just because I was not in that one.
よって、ジェシカの部屋の件、そしてこの使用人室の件の両方について、そなたが認識していた以外の人間は存在しない。
Oh. Was there a witch in... Oh, no, no, no. furniture. Is there furniture, or she doesn't consider servants humans, so that is going to be the key, I bet.
誰も隠れていない。さらに言おう。扉は鍵を使用せずに外から施錠する方法は存在しない。
Wow, she's really going ham with it.
窓については外からはいかなる方法でも施錠する方法は存在しない。
Yeah, I'm gonna bet it has something to do with servants that she considers furniture. Is the loophole.
ついでに言おう。そなたは無能
I
だ。
love that it's red. Man, she just teabagged him with that one.
それじゃあ
That was a real Halo teabag right there. Old
ミス
school.
じゃねえかよ。せっかく思いついたのに。お前が隠れていたんならすべて説明が
Yeah,
つ
but
い
she's
たの
not
に。
human.
トリックを打ち破れたと思ったってのに。くそ。
Don't cry, Battler. It's useless, it's useless, it's useless, it's all useless. For a second I thought I had it. It was all useless. Damn it! I was so sure that I'd finally seen through her, that I'd seen how she distracted me with that clever red wordplay and fooled me. Just when I thought I found light in the darkness. It disappeared. It just disappeared. Swallowed up by bloody red sea. Red. Aka. Red. 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 Red rum. Red. No one is hiding, and there's no hidden door, and no way to get past the door or the window while they're locked. Have you just proven that's all impossible? Has the devil's proof been fulfilled? With a frontal attack? Impossible. That's impossible.
どうしたのだ後ろ宮バトラー。魔女を否定する気で満々だったじゃない。そんなところで這いつくばって悔し涙を絞り出してどうしたんだい。ああ、それはとっても素敵な方法。
He could deny witches, but he could say that demons or the servant thing.
わらわを笑い転げさせて笑い涙の海で溺れ殺してやろうというのは確かに素敵。実はそうなんだろう。わらわを笑って笑って笑い殺してやろうって手なんだろう。後ろ宮バトラー。
Her little laugh cracks me up every time.
何か魔法だ。魔女なんて絶対に否定してやる。お前なんて絶対に信じない。魔法の力でみんなを面白半分にいじめ殺してるなんて絶対に認めね
え。なあ、
Yeah, you tell her, Battler.
いじめすぎて悪かった。わらわ側からチェス盤をひっくり返してやるぞ。お前に代わってお前側の最善手を教えてやるよ。聞きたい？
ふざけんな。聞きたくねえ聞きたくね
え。ジェシカの部屋の件、そなたは実に良いところをついていたのだぞ。隠れてやり過ごそうとした。これは実にいい着眼だった。だがなぜそれをカノンと19人目のわらわにしか考えなかった？そうか。隠れてやり過ごすの。隠れてが邪魔だったから考えが至らなかったか。ほーら、もうわかるだろう。ジェシカだよ。ジェシカ！
If Jessica were the culprit, a farce like this would be easily constructed. She killed Canon and carried him off somewhere. Then she played dead and let us walk by. But that's ridiculous. Dr. Nanjo definitely confirmed that she was dead. So is Dr. Nanjo an accomplice too? Oh, that actually could work. That's wrong. I also confirmed that Jessica was dead. I've never examined a corpse before, but she definitely was dead. I think she was dead. No, probably, surely, definitely, what thought by certainly. Wait. She was dead. She was dead.
ジェシカもグルなのよ。そして、検視をした南條もグル。ならば第三の密室など茶番だろうが。
Yeah, then it's simple. Dr. Nanjo was in on it. So in other words, he's on the culprit side, which means he was never dead in the first place. We thought the body disappeared when he was killed, but what if he was never in the servant's room to begin with? So if Kumasawa disappeared with him, does that mean she's in on it too? That's not all. That's not all. Servants who agreed to keep to that story, Genji and Goda, and even Shannon, were also in on it. Then the one who stole the key from Maria's handbag was Jessica. No. Could have even been George. After all, Shannon is on the culprit side. That automatically makes George on the culprit side. Wait a second. Just wait a second. They're all wolves. They're all wolves. Not only am I drowning in an ocean of red-blue blood, there's packs of wolves clamoring on the banks whose blazing eyes tell me that they'll eat me if I crawl out. Which way should I die? Should I deny everything and drown in a bright red sea? Or should I learn the truth and have my whole body chewed to bits by the wolves? It's either one hell or the other. I can't choose. Yeah!
だからこそわらわがいる。さあ、後ろ宮バトラー、ひざまずけ。そして永遠の忠誠を誓ってわらわの靴を舐めるがいい。わらわを認めれば全ての謎に決着がつく。わらわの力をもってすればどのような密室も生み出せ、そして打ち破れる。バトラー、力ある者に屈服する喜びに身を委ねたくはない。
He's not gonna surrender.
そなたはわらわの一番のお気に入りの
She just gave away stuff. Furniture. I'm telling you
そ
guys.
なたを愛して愛して灰になるまでわらわの玩具にしてやるよ。
I mean, she's pretty hot, so it'll probably be not that miserable. Okay, I'm saving here. Yeah, this is getting insane. I don't know what the hell to believe, but I'm loving it. So, yeah, I'm just... Yeah, this is getting super crazy. Yeah, I can't wait to see what we find out in the next episode. I mean, we're kind of going towards the end of this one. I mean, how many people need to... Let me see here. Characters. How many need to die? 13, I believe. 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So only 3 more need to die. I mean, yeah, we're like close to the end right now. And yeah, I'm pretty pumped. But yes, only 3 more. I don't know if those counted the way they died. Let me see. What the hell? Sorry. I'm trying to figure this out. Finishing touches. Okay, so I guess Yeah, oh. Yeah, I guess the, we will find out later and everything. But, yeah, I guess she could stab them. They don't have to die from being stabbed in the particular places, I don't think. I think they just need to have those, the stakes stabbed into those areas at some point. So, but, yeah, guys, let me know what you thought of the episode.